Now that C2E2 2026 is wrapped up, it's time to reflect on the weekend. Prior to the show, I wanted to answer some questions about this convention. One, what does this convention offer to comic fans? And two, where does this convention sit among others, particularly among US-based comic conventions? The biggest area for improvement involves comic book publishers, and while the quote-unquote fault doesn't fall on any single party, there's something each side can offer to remedy this. When I began attending conventions, and for some time beyond that, comic publishers were a staple. Fans could always count on seeing multiple companies, from major ones to indie publishers of varying scale. Booths featuring large displays of characters and stories were highlights on show floors. They were hubs for community connection, creator signings, photo ops, and of course, free swag. Shout out to all the posters and comics we got along the way. My hypothesis on the decreased presence of comic book publishers falls within two realms: cost and access to online communities. Rising costs have affected nearly every facet of life, and as fun as they are, Comic Cons are not immune to that. Having never worked at a publisher, my guess is they would need to pay the costs associated with transporting a group and materials to the convention, along with housing them and feeding them while they're there. That cost has certainly only continued to increase over the years. Even more so as conventions have grown in number and popularity. Online access and interactions have become a regular part of fan life within the last decade. The content and news fans would previously catch at shows is now dished out online. Companies are now sharing info on upcoming projects at the touch of a button. The reach has expanded and companies have been able to connect and engage with more fans than ever. The next aspect I want to focus on are the comic dealers. As you'll see from most of the footage here, there are tons of fans who only go to Comic Cons to shop. It's all about adding to their collections, whether it's older key comics they've been saving and hunting for, or filling holes in those runs. Many collectors head right for the vendor sections and don't leave. Leading up to any conventions I'm considering attending, I'll take a look at the dealers/exhibitors and the guest list. More on that later. This gives me an idea of what to expect from the number of vendors and potential types of comics that'll be available. As I discussed before, it does seem C2E2 has regained some ground in that area during the last couple shows. The number of comic dealers has been a good representation of what many comic collectors have come to expect. Is it the same extent as Heroes Con? No. Or even Baltimore Comic Con based on what I've heard and seen? Probably not. But those two are in a class of their own, I'd say, in that regard. The other part of that is no one knows for sure what the variety of items will be ahead of time. Based on the companies, however, you can make some solid predictions and likely be correct. Just about anything you want comic-wise can be found, from dollar comic boxes to multi-$1,000 wall books, raw comics to graded comics, golden age up to new releases, graphic novels, omnibus, trade paperbacks, and more. Books were there to buy, vendors were willing to make deals. I was able to walk away from the show with quite the stack of books. That includes books covering different eras, price ranges, and from multiple dealers. My complete haul video is up on the channel already. If you haven't seen everything I picked up yet, go check that out. Now let's shift from the comics to the people behind them. The creator guest list and artist alley is where C2E2 shines in terms of comic related content. They've maintained a lengthy list of talented names from newer creators to more seasoned ones for years. The guest list has always been a major draw for comic fans. This is especially true as ticket prices continue to rise. As previously mentioned, yes, many collectors go just to buy comics, but that becomes harder to justify with increasing entry costs. Collectors will stick to their local comic shops and online to satisfy their shopping needs. Yes, you can bring in multiple dealers loads of comics, but if all you offer for the fans is an opportunity to shop after they pay for tickets, travel, lodging, food, etc., the value proposition starts to look less appealing. At that point, it makes more sense to stay home and put those funds towards the comics you're looking to buy. That means event organizers must have more to keep fans coming back year after year. That's where the guests come into play. Fans will travel when the people whose work they've admired and appreciated are making appearances. In my preview of this year's show, I highlighted some of the industry figures who were set to appear. Guests will, of course, vary from event to event around the country. Another aspect that changes to an even higher degree is the programming. C2E2, as they've historically done, did have some panels with a comic focus. Could there be more to entice people? Yes. Some of that can also be tied back into the lack of publisher involvement, but everyone's miles will vary. It comes down to what you're expecting and what you'd like to see. Now it's time for the final verdict. With many conventions making the shift to more general pop culture events, is C2E2 still a Comic-Con for comic fans? Yes, short answer. There is a lot of fun to be had for comic fans. Longer answer, with the caveat being there are areas for improvement. Those are primarily publisher participation and comic-related programming. These aren't new either. The first decade of the show saw a heavy focus on these areas, as I've talked about before. Returning to that level is sure to reignite interest among a wider base of comic book fans. C2E2 returns in 2027 on April 30th through May 2nd. Yes, the dilemma is immediately noticeable. The next C2E2 weekend falls on Free Comic Book Day, whatever that may be called, or however it may look, we'll see. That already puts some dealers and fans in conflict with their plans. How will that impact Chicago area comic shops? What about comic shop owners traveling to the convention? All my C2E2 2026 coverage is up. Find the rest of the videos here on TikTok and Instagram, as well as full photo galleries from each day on genotalkscomics.com. If you attended C2E2 2026, what was your experience? I'm curious how other experiences differ, especially based on what you're interested in seeing at the show. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate your support. See you next year, convention fans.